They linked religion and political duties together. So there's a re-domestication, that means back to the home, of women. And it's primarily caused by men returning from the war and going into the workplace. So all of these Rosie the Riveters that were in the workplace, the kids are in the daycare, the men come back from war, they go back into the workplace, and the women are shuffled back home. Now, can you imagine this? Just think of this for just a second. On the perspective of feminism we've been talking about. You have people that are fighting for them to go into the home, then the war comes out, and now they're saying, it's your duty to go build military-grade weapons. Rosie the Riveter, get out there, okay? The men come back, and now they're going, hey, women, it's your duty now to go back home.
I want to build military-grade weapons.
To me, it sounds like that feminism allows women to be a pawn. Welcome to the Family Pulpit Podcast. This is episode 14, and we are continuing our series in feminism.
Nice.
That's it.
Nice.
This is going to be a fun episode.
You say I talk too much, so I just decided to turn it down.
Whoa. No, when did I say that? That's in life, not on the podcast. In the podcast, you almost have free reign. Almost. So episode 14, we're scheduled.
Hold up.
We have some.
Hang on. We have some technical upgrades in the room.
Oh,
I now have 4 monitors, a Nintendo Wii, a knockoff entertainment system which works just as well, 2 Wi-Fi adapters, an old keyboard that I said to myself, it doesn't even have USB, so I said to myself, I'm probably going to be the first person in the world to use a non-USB keyboard and that's not Bluetooth to play Fortnite with.
Do you remember when we started the show and I said you said that I said that you talk too much?
Yeah. And then you said something like you don't or something?
I said you could have free reign on the podcast.
But then you just said
wrong.
Almost.
I was wrong. Okay, so let's get going. Episode 14, we are talking about feminism again. And yes, it's been a long subject, but that's because it is a profound subject, right? I like to put the emphasis on the profound.
On the wrong syllable?
No, it's the right syllable. It's just extended out with a little bit of West Virginia.
The allusion to powers.
Feminism.
Wait.
No.
Just had, Bella was just talking about illusions.
Okay.
From her English class.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
With an A. Illusions with an A, not with an I like.
And I said you could just tell somebody who thinks they know so much, oh yeah, I've been looking at some optical illusions today. And they'd be like, oh, you like those spinning cogs? And you'd be like, no, a picture of somebody quoting a movie.
I think that might be different. Yeah, picture of someone.
Incorrect.
An illusion. Okay, so in feminism, episode 14 right here, the reason why it's taken a little bit of time is because feminism
is a big back topic.
It is a big topic, but it is intertwined with American culture from really the late 1800s to the present day. And I didn't realize this. So when we were going through our 4 destructive forces, we might say, on the family economy.
Oh, they were destructive forces.
And the family in general. And we listed those out, like the Platonic influence on the institutional church, Industrial Revolution, compulsory education, and now feminism. I didn't realize how broad sweeping feminism was.
Hold up just a second. You said negative impact, but you got to think the 4th Industrial Revolution gave us the Bible app, bro.
We would have been fine without it.
But just think of the millions who have been saved because they had the app on their phone.
Maybe that's not quantifiable though, and God's sovereignty extends beyond the Bible app.
Ask him in heaven.
Okay, so anyway, let's get serious. So episode 14 of the podcast, what we want to do is pick up on feminism. And the last time, episode 13, we talked about kind of the rise of liberalism, which became known as the social gospel, and then also the response of fundamentalism. Now, that controversy was set in the early 1900s, extended to about 1920 or so. But it was the way that it was always taught to me, it was kind of ripped from its context. It was basically like, hey, the liberals, they got some German higher criticism. Remember we talked about the leaders, Christian leaders that went over to Germany to learn. And then it became a doctrinal issue, which it was. But all of that was kind of sparked from the Industrial Revolution. So it was extremely relevant to what we're talking about. Then the social gospel wanted to address the sins or the ills of society, one of which would have been the working conditions, but another would have been the role of the women. Okay, so that's how it's related to feminism. So we want to pick up here with just a broad time period before we start hitting into some details, and that's from roughly 1880. So
I just want to mention here, whenever you said the P there, it literally sounded like you got hit in the head with a pillow.
One of us is about to be.
And it ain't me.
So from about the time period of
to make an allusion to Creedence Clearwater.
Okay, so that allusion to Creedence Clearwater. Remember that compilation that we were trying to come up with all of Ezra's squirrels? Mm-hmm. That one's added to it.
What? That's what?
Yeah, look for this audio. Maybe just a YouTube video. We'll just say coming soon. What we decided, maybe Ezra decided to do, is to go back to previous episodes, and we want to. Actually, this was my idea. We want to go grab all of the times that he squirrels, like a random thought, and we want to pull all those into one audio, which would be a YouTube video. But
goated.
I think it would be pretty funny. Anyway, so what we're looking at...
The correct English term is goated.
Excuse me.
That's totally correct.
What we're looking at is this broad time period from about 1880 to 1960. Okay, so I know that that's a big time period, but right at the beginning of that, we have what we just went over with the rise of liberalism and then responsive fundamentalism. So we're picking up kind of in this movement of the first wave feminism, which was largely about... What was it about? First wave feminism.
Voting.
Voting, right?
Yes.
I just picked up, or what's called the suffrage movement. So during that time period, that 80-year period that we're talking about, the male breadwinner model, it was in its peak. It was in its golden age. And by male breadwinner, what we mean is the man was primarily the one who would go out and earn the money for the family.
That low key sounds like an award, like the Caldecott, the breadwinner.
Yeah,
I'm actually gonna make an award like that. I don't know what it's gonna be, but I'm making it.
So during the period, we had some government policies that were kind of set up to highlight that fact, to bring that fact or make that more of a reality. The male breadwinner. I had a note here for Ford $5 days, but since it's been a while since I made these notes, I think that was just basically like a family wage or a daily wage. We would call it. It would be different than a minimum wage today. You know how you've seen the signs maybe at Chick-fil-A or wherever, and it talks about $13 or $15 minimum wage or per hour. So they had a family wage back then, or at least they were trying to get one permanently established. It didn't really take, but the family wage would have been we'll call it minimum, but it really wasn't set up that way. But it would be the minimum amount that a family would need to survive. And the father was the key breadwinner for that.
How much would you say that is? How much did they say that was?
Well, I don't know. We had the Ford $5 days, so maybe Henry Ford back in the day was paying people $5 a day to work in his factory.
That sounds like his automobile factory. Like Taco Tuesday.
Yeah. Inherently, what this does though is it makes women financially dependent on men. Are you going to quit messing with that? Because we all can hear it.
I know.
It makes women financially dependent on men, and this sounds like coverture back in the day.
It does.
So, but what the difference was is this was legislated by the government. So what you actually moved from was from women depending on the man to now women depending on the man because the government said so. That's a big problem.
Yeah, the government likes to butt into everything, don't they?
In the 1920s, we have what was called the Post-Suffrage Slump.
Hey, everybody can hear you smacking a mouse on the table, too.
Well, I thought maybe a mouse might be different than fidgeting.
It wasn't a fidget, it was organization.
Okay, then.
Which you can't expect from somebody like me.
So the 19th Amendment, that was the vote for women's rights. That was the amendment for women's rights to vote. And it fails to bring equality because of marriage bars and the family wage. It would keep women economically dependent. And the marriage bars, we talked about this in our opening feminism episode, but what actually happened was that when women got married, they would be fired from their jobs if those jobs were risky to their health or to their life or to their children, because they actually wanted to promote women being in the home. This was the concept of the maternalists, which we talked about.
You know, they wouldn't have used the word fired. They would have used the word relieved.
Relieved of duties.
Eliminated.
This created this 1920s post-suffrage slump, and what that means is that women had the right to vote, but they really weren't coming out to vote, so nothing really changed for them. Actually,
we had a short on. It was your short, I think. Is Are women too emotional to vote?
I did a notes from the pulpit because of an X and Facebook post that someone local to us made talking about how women were too emotional to vote. So yeah, go check that out. Actually, I went through Derek Evans. He used to be a delegate in Wayne County, West Virginia. It was a short-lived term because of January 6th, so-called riot or insurrection at the Capitol. He ended up getting relieved of his duties to be a delegate, but he's been an outspoken online influencer, we might say, and he made that comment. So I dove into that topic.
Another thing, I'm gonna make an internet service, and it has marriage bars, and it has like a flower. No, like you know how you have bars with internet. It has a flower bouquet, and the flower slowly gets colorified, and that tells you how much internet you have.
Okay, I don't know how that's a marriage bar, but we'll go with it. So this time period, and as a result of the post-19th Amendment slump, it creates a split between women. So you have a lady that was known by Alice Paul, who was over the National Women's Party, or at least involved with them. She was kind of held to this view called equity feminism, and what that meant was the women were equal with men. If a man went out and worked a construction job, then so could a woman, basically.
That sounds capitalistic. No, I'm just saying equity, and then you got this dude Kevin on Shark Tank who's a big capitalist, and he always talking about equity.
So Alice Paul's equity feminism split with the maternalists. So the maternalists were pushing for stay-at-home moms, which was kind of like a form of feminism, though. But the equity feminists were saying, hey, anything man can do, women can do, if not as equals or better.
Haven't you guys seen Daddy or Daycare? Or Daddy Daycare?
Yes.
That was literally, men can do what women do, and women can do what men do.
You wanted this episode to go quickly.
I'm sorry. That all changes when you hit the record button.
Oh, this is why, by the way, if you've noticed a few of our older podcast episodes, especially in the Family Pulpit podcast, I went through and
you can hear me smiling.
Had AI. You can hear you smiling. I went through and had AI add timestamps, so you can go to those videos and you can kind of filter through some of this back and forth discussion that may not be relevant to the subject at all, and just jump right in there. And I'm hoping to also produce. There was the P again. I'm hoping also to have some show notes. That'll be a summary, if not an infographic. That way you can get to the information quickly if you don't want to listen to sometimes random or off the wall back and forth.
I wonder who that
It'll just stick to the facts. It could be alluding to both of us.
Oh wait, guys,
you gotta let me, bro. You have to. We will never get through this.
This is promotion to our own thing.
All right.
Listen, I just got a few words to say.
We're having another episode after this. I'm just telling you, there's 0% chance we're making it through this.
I just gotta say, guys, I got a mini podcast, Notes from the Co-Host, where I do dumb stuff.
It wasn't dumb. It was very interesting. This will be a plug for that, although it's already posted. To go check out the tips from the co-host.
No, notes from the co-host.
Notes from the co-host.
My first
it was a little 2.5 minute.
Yeah.
On
3.
On
waves.
Waves, which was actually interesting.
Not ocean waves, guys. No. Not ocean waves. Like you wanted. Moon tides. But I do want to say one more thing. The thumbnail, copy it. Use it.
In 1923, the Equal Rights Amendment, kind of led by Alice Paul, it was looking forward to the promotion of complete and total individualization, we might say. So essentially what it says is women are independent. Mm-hmm. They can be their own person. Mm-hmm. So you can hear... When we went back and we looked at Genesis and we saw how God created man, and it was not good for man to be alone. And then he created a helper or helpmeet for him, right? In Eve.
Helpmeet? And so I don't understand. Is this like a 8-ounce sirloin or what?
No, it's spelled MEET. It's a different concept than an actual helper. It's supposed to be someone who would be, technically speaking, would be equal in the not technically, but is equal in the personhood,
apprentice.
But is different and complementary in the roles. That's what that word actually was conveying.
That's why 3rd of 7 projects say you need a woman to cook for you.
I don't know about that. We don't want to get ourselves in trouble with 3 of 7. He's a former Navy SEAL. If he's listening to this, if somehow the search brings that up, hey man, can you like or subscribe our videos and maybe you can have us on the show? Okay, so Alice Paul and the National Women's Program, they tried to build on the what now of women's right to vote. Essentially, since the women now had a right to vote, they were like, well, now what do we do? Because they weren't pouring themselves out to the polls. It was actually, they never really got any higher than about 35 to 40% of the women. So you would think if this was a major, massive issue, like everyone was making it out to be, wouldn't they flood the polls? Wouldn't it be like 75, 80, 90%? Now, there's some critics that say, well, there were some things that were hindering this and that maybe it was looked down upon for women to go and vote. Fine. It still never really jumped up as a voting block, but the same as it did for class or religion.
They're like, what do we do now?
Until I think the Reagan administration.
I'll tell them exactly what they need to do. They need to make some rock cakes and then sit down and watch Die Hard 2 with me.
And once again, we have a clip for the random podcast. Okay, so the maternalists, remember there was this split among women. So sometimes people hear feminism and they think all the women were for this. That's not true. They were split. They were big parties. So the Alice Paul group split from the maternalists. The maternalists are like, look, if you guys go through with this and make woman an individual, not dependent on man, it's going to undermine everything about protective rights that we just fought for. This will be the family wage. The family wage was there so the woman could stay home with the kids and man was insured to have enough money to take care of his family.
That's what we have today.
It would eliminate the marriage bars. You get married, you get fired. Now you might think, well, that's stupid. A woman should be allowed to do that. Listen, these were dangerous conditions. It's not like they were sitting at a desk as a secretary, right? Like they were risking their lives.
Here are your papers.
The third thing that they were worried about is that the real equality in noting different needs, there was a real and existent equality, but you also had to note different needs, different roles, different capabilities among men and women. Okay, you following that little overview right there?
I think so.
There was a riff. So there's a after the women's suffrage, which is first wave. It's sort of like a now what are we going to do moment,
yes,
which makes sense. You fought for this and you get it, and things don't change immediately, and now you're kind of like, well, that didn't work. What are we going to do now? From 1900 to from 1900s to 1960s. This is actually very important politically. Okay.
Okay, so now we're doing Joe Biden studies?
No, listen before you jump out there. When you hear today Democrat versus Republican,
I do want to know about that.
It has changed in meaning from where it was 100 years ago.
I'm sure it has.
Back in the 1900s, from the 1900 till about 1960, the Democratic Party was the pro-family party. Okay, so today the Conservative or Republican Party is looked at as more pro-family, and the Democratic Party is looked at as more pro-individual, more pro-leanings towards unions, more pro-leaning towards kind of socialistic, communistic concepts, by and large, just broad picture. Okay, so it's shifted a little bit. The Great Depression, you mentioned that last time. In our discussion on liberalism and fundamentalism, we talked about how the conservatives, especially Christian conservatives or evangelicals, really didn't have anything to say. They were quiet.
The Great Depression happens whenever I didn't get to play Fortnite Chapter 1 that long.
So the Great Depression breaks the conservative silence. Fundamentalists begin linking the Bible with capitalism and individualism to fight the socialist New Deal. We'll talk about the New Deal in just a second.
Also, what's up with that random string of text right there?
I think it probably happened just a second ago, but thank you for pointing that out. We don't have a keyboard that functions because you, in your setup,
one died, dude.
In your setup here, we are left without. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm not worried about. We can fix it in a minute.
I got it.
Okay. It may have been your toe that hit that.
It could have been my toe.
See that one more backspace there on that character?
One more?
Anyway, the conservative response, they started linking the Bible. It was now the Bible's duty, or it was now a responsibility based on Scripture to be a capitalist, to be an individual, to fight socialism, which was bringing I just mentioned this how it is today.
To be a Kevin O'Leary at heart.
Are you going to focus?
Now, he's going to throw wine at me, but okay.
You are all... Who's going to throw wine at you?
Kevin O'Leary.
Okay.
You know, his little slideshow feature on the Shark Tank thing shows him shaking wine in a glass and then drinking it, so, like, he's going to throw that at me.
So, the D.L. Moody, which we talked about last time, the D.L. Moody response of sinking ship meaning society or culture was a sinking ship. Like, why would you rearrange the deck chairs on a sinking ship? Why would you polish the brass rails on a sinking ship? It's going to sink. Why do these things?
Just take a
His
chill
response,
pill. Have Mai Tai.
which also included saving of souls, that strategy, it no longer worked, quote unquote worked, because it was the family was being threatened. The paterfamilias was being threatened. Okay, if you're going to go out and you're just going to focus on getting people saved and getting them to heaven, it doesn't provide a balanced outlook on life. Yes, we need to go out and preach the gospel to people, but we also need to tell them, how then shall we live today?
By Francis Schaeffer.
You like that? You like that? I brought you back. The conservative response was now fueled by the concern of losing out to the social gospel of the New Deal. We'll get to it.
May I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Why am I saying the John Cena theme song whenever I'm talking about Francis Schaeffer?
I don't know. Is that all you had to say?
Yeah.
Okay. So they needed a response. They needed a scriptural response. So they start to link, this is the conservatives, the fundamentalists, they start to link the Bible with patriotism. And they frame the opponent not necessarily as a democratic New Deal of the maternalists, but rather godless socialism. So here's what I'm getting at. In that fundamentalist and liberal fight that we saw, as long as the fundamentalists had an enemy that they could identify, they were good to go. They were their movement was growing, and they put that enemy target, onto the social gospel and to the liberalists. Okay,
and they had gospel. Remember, it's pouring the Bible into the mold of the sociality.
Mm-hmm. And remember how we looked at their response was doctrinal. How for all of the things that the liberals came out with from the higher criticism movement, the fundamentalists came along and they had a doctrinal response. But now they're realizing, now post 1925 or so, they're realizing that's not enough. We still got a big problem with the family. The family is struggling. Dads are in the workplace way too long. Moms are still in the workplace. We're trying to get them out. The government's trying to help, but things are spiraling. And the Great Depression is a symbol of all of that. You couldn't have an industry, a culture that was built on the back of a machine. Culture is always built on the back of a man.
The machine, like from POI?
Ultimately, yeah, because if we're in fourth industrial revolution, then you have a person of interest machine, right? It had to start somewhere.
Yeah, watch Matrix, guys. Homework.
Okay, so what they started to do, they're linking it with patriotism, and they have to find a new enemy. So their enemy becomes socialism. Now, as culture would have it, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, which, by the way,
that was like a division of the government.
Huh?
FDR.
That's the president.
I know, but I feel like FDR is like...
No, I don't know what you're saying.
Division of the government.
So, under the FDR's New Deal, it assumed that men paid for their families while the women raised them in the home. Now, all of these concepts under FDR, listen, financially, I think FDR's New Deal may have been a disaster. But as it relates to the family, it was actually very, very good ideas. The big problem, though, was that the government shouldn't be the one dictating this. However, here's what happened. They knew they had a big problem with industrialism. They knew that it was destroying the family, but they also knew they couldn't step back in time and go back to horse and buggy necessarily. They had to roll with the Industrial Revolution. So what they tried to do was come up with policies and legislation to kind of restore and shore up the family in the midst of this industrial age. Are you following me on that? That sounds good, but I really don't want my government determining those things. Nevertheless, they had multiple government programs to reestablish the family as the center of the economy, with men in the workforce and the women at home. The state would provide for the women. Coverture. Who provided for the women? The men did.
Men. Yeah.
Now, in place, you're always going to be dependent on some husbands. You're always going to be dependent on someone. And now the state is stepping into the role of the man and saying, look, just depend on us.
I mean,
and
they come
out with the Social Security Act of 1935. They come out with the Fair Labor Standards Act. This sustained the family wage. Frances Perkins becomes the U.S. Secretary of Labor in 1933 to 1945, opposing.
He got assassinated.
Opposing equity feminism, opposing permanent daycare centers. This was stopgap only. So the government came out with a program to build daycare centers. In other words, hey, look, we're in this transitional period where we want to get the women out of the workplace and into the home. But we have to have daycares in order for their kids to go there until we can transition out. Now, she recognizes, she's like, we are not doing permanent daycares at all. But unfortunately, they remained. And it actually ended up allowing the women to stay in the workplace and not raise their kids because they could simply send them over to these institutions, preschool institutions or daycares. You understand? You understand that? This also creates a liberal maternalist alliance. This is where maternalists reach their finest hour. This is peak for them. So under FDR, the maternalists, remember that they wanted programs to get the women back into the home and restore their rightful place as being mothers and raising their children. They reach peak under FDR. This is peak for them. But there's a huge, huge, massive thing that happens. World War II.
Oh, gosh.
So out of World War I, that's kind of where that... In the midst of World War I, things start shifting and changing with the liberalism and fundamentalism fights. This is why the target becomes communism and socialism. They're like, hey, look, we've already established where we stand on the doctrinal things that the liberals to come out with, but now we need a new target, and that was the socialism or communism from World War I, particularly Russia. Okay?
Russia.
But now World War II comes along, and you got the famous poster. You know Rosie the Riveter? Have you seen her?
No.
Really? Well, we can't really look it up right now.
We can.
We can pull it up later. But it's this famous poster that the government made, and the lady has like a her arm is kind of flexing her muscle, and then she's got like a bandana wrapped around her head.
I might have seen that.
And the idea is that
does Wade have a cardboard cutout of it?
Who?
Wade.
Who's Wade?
From Knuckles, the series, from Sonic the Hedgehog. Have you not seen this movie?
Oh my goodness sakes. No,
bro,
I haven't.
He might have a cutout of it.
Please comment below if Wade from the Sonic and Knuckles series...
No, it's just Knuckles. It's just the Knuckles series.
Excuse me, just the Knuckles series has a cardboard cutout of Rosie the Riveter. What's a riveter? What's a rivet? Not a frog sound, not like rivet, but a rivet.
Oh, you know what that would be? That would be an onomatopoeia.
Can you tell me what a rivet is?
That would be an onomatopoeia.
Can you tell me what a rivet is?
A rivet?
So a rivet
sounds like a divot, which is a hole in something.
It's essentially a bolt that would hold parts together, namely airplanes and military-grade weapons.
Yes.
So the women were brought into the workforce. In fact, it was declared that it was your patriotic duty to go help the wartime efforts. Okay? So the women who had now, at this point, it was encouraged that you come into the house, come back home, raise your children. World War II hits, guess what happens? Well, we were actually just kidding about you being in the house and that was your natural role. Your country needs you, and actually we need you back into the workforce.
Yay!
This turns out to be disastrous for women, by the way.
That's what I thought.
Okay,
so where are we going to stop?
I knew you were going to ask that question, and we're not going to stop right now. We're going to keep on rolling. So the government campaign for women's patriotic duty. This was where you see signs of propaganda. You know what I'm saying? Like the Rosie the Riveter is propaganda. Is there a way that we can type this in or not? Because
yep, I got it.
I'm losing you, but I also want you to see. Okay. I also want you to see the image so you can understand what it is we're dealing with here.
All right, never mind, I got you.
They can't hear you, so maybe just don't talk. Okay? So while he's looking up an image of Rosie the Riveter, this is actually propaganda that was used to encourage women that it was their patriotic duty to get back into the workplace. They had just fought for so many years to get home, and now it reverses all that and says, get back into the workplace. There you go. That's it. We can do it.
I've seen that.
The we can do it, right? I'm going to minimize this as...
Look, that's her right there.
Yep. Can you get off of the controls so I can minimize that and go back to the notes, please? Thank you. So... Oh, easy.
What do you mean easy?
It crushes this campaign for women's patriotic duty. It crushes all the work that the maternalists had just fought for. Government recruits women for employment, and this leads to that rise in daycares that we just talked about. Yep. Remember, Frances Perkins wanted it to be temporary. Well, now with the women going back into the workforce to support the war efforts, daycares become permanent. You got to have something to do with the kids. In fact, if you were incentivizing women to come home and saying, look, we'll give you the family wage, we'll give you incentives and tax breaks for all of the different kids that you had, because that started under Teddy Roosevelt and extended through to FDR. Well, now you've got women who have a bunch of children and they're at home. If they go and join the workforce, you got to have something to do with the kids, and they go over to government institutions, daycares. You with me?
Yeah. What's his middle name?
Who?
Franklin.
Delano or Delano?
That guy who.
That's what I was going to say earlier. Yeah, he pronounces his different. He pronounces it Delano.
Delano.
They pronounced it Delano.
Delano. Sha-la-la-la.
Thank you.
Allusion to Odd Squad.
Thank you. I'm going to talk. Can I talk now? After the war, you have what's called the post-war domestic ideal. Domestic meaning home.
I thought domestic meant tamed.
It does, but in this context, we're talking about home.
Yeah, like when I use that app Sync to scan at my dog, it says domestic dog. That feels so weird saying my dog. I'm just going to say his name. Gus. I leaked his name. The whole internet knows.
From 1946 to 1962, that's where you get this domestic ideal. This is also the golden age of capitalism. Okay, everything
Kevin O'Leary was probably born back then. Can you
let me get through, random?
My bad.
Everything that they saved. So in the wartime, okay, you can imagine things are very tough, and so people were saving scraps. They were saving all of their glass. They were saving their clothes. They were resewing. No one's really going out and spending a bunch of money buying new stuff because you just didn't know. The economy was bad.
But what about when they released, like, new Kylo Ren?
They weren't doing that. All of the production was geared up for government weapons and wartime efforts. Nobody was making these things at home. Okay? So
was that your belly?
No, I don't think so. Was it yours?
I don't think so, because I would have felt it.
Thank you for pointing that out, though.
Bro, I heard a... It sounded like the Wither Storm.
I may have to edit that out. Wartime savings are spent. The massive gross domestic product is on the rise. Unemployment drops. Home ownership rises. This is essentially the golden age right here for the United States, because everything that they had saved up during the wartime, when the war breaks, it's like go spend, go buy, go build. Go do all of these things, okay? From the 1940s to the 1950s, that earlier battle that we talked about last episode between fundamentalism and liberalism, well, it settles down. You now have a common enemy. Whereas before, we kind of mentioned it in the 1920s with, hey, socialism starts to become the new target for fundamentalists. Now, post-World War II, guess what? It is full on. We don't really care that you have problems in the home. We don't care that the family's been interrupted or upset by the Industrial Revolution. We really don't even care about feminism rising. We've already dealt with the doctrinal issues, and there's been a massive split in the churches. So we're not really concerned about that either. You know what they now were concerned with? Full on communism. Full on attention to communism. The mutual response between both fundamentalism and liberalism was flat out patriotism, Americanism.
Oh, see.
It's coming up. This leads
You know what? I sung that today.
I heard that. I saw the video.
Yeah.
So this is where the Cold War gets started, and this is a huge point. It's not really related to our discussion on feminism necessarily, but the Cold War enemy of communism, this leads to the birth of the political gospel. Pay attention to this, okay?
Okay.
Just real quick.
I'm listening.
The political gospel is a merger of three influences during this time period in this post-World War II. It's the policies of Eisenhower. He was president, right?
Yep.
The religion of Billy Graham, and the propaganda of a man by the name of Henry Luce, Luce. This refined religion into a national morality, a civil religion. In other words, the focus was on, hey, go to church, raise a family in a suburb, and be patriotic and support the government's fight against these godless enemies abroad, these godless communists. Which, by the way, I don't like those blanket statements like that. Are you trying to tell me that in Russia, in Germany, that there were no believers? There were. So I don't like the focus on a national enemy like that. I think that's wrong-headed. If you have a problem with the other country's government, that's fine. But really, there's people there too that are made in the image of God, and there also can be a number of Christians as well. You know what I'm saying? Like this whole blanket enemy thing that started rising out of the Cold War, it still exists today, and I don't really like it that much.
Like Iran? Like
Iran has a large number of Christians as well. Iraq, there's a lot of Christians in the Middle East. There's a lot of Christians in Russia. There's a lot of Christians. Actually, these other countries are at a faster rate in Christian growth than the United States is. At one time, China was number one. You know what I'm saying? So I don't like looking at...
What?
Yeah.
I thought they're the people who come out with those crappy game consoles that are actually awesome. They're goated. They last forever. They're actually better than the actual ones. No, they're not. I don't know why I said that.
Okay.
I watched a video about that earlier.
Okay. So anyway, that's the response that's taken place during this time. So we're losing focus of the feminism issues, and it's percolating under the surface. Because when you take
in general,
they took their attention, they took their eye off the ball. Okay, they're focusing on an enemy that's thousands of miles away, but it was the result of propaganda. They fell into this trap. This leads
pretty much every single person who's ever played Fortnite has focused on an enemy who's thousands of miles away.
Okay.
Just saying.
Thank you.
And I'm actually not losing focus. I'm just tired.
Historically, I know you are. Historically speaking, this is where we get the rise of Judeo-Christian morality. So
that is a big hyphenated word.
It is. For those of you who are interested in some of the discussions today around Israel and Judaism, etc., this is okay. This is where you get that Judeo-Christian. It arises in a post-World War II environment, specifically around the 40s and 50s. Now, this links together, arm in arm, Protestants, Catholics, and Jews. This is also where you get the development of "In God We Trust."
What's a Protestant?
A Protestant is someone who follows after the tradition of the Protestant Reformation in the 1500s. So there was largely a Catholic church up until the time that there was a split from Martin Luther when he starts pointing out some things that the Catholic Church does wrong. And then you get a bunch of denominations that start forming and splintering off of that.
Yep.
It starts with the Anabaptists, and it kind of moves from there to the Anglicans, which was the Church of England.
And then it ended with the popularization of the insult son of a Baptist preacher.
What just happened? What are you talking about?
Look at my Tim Hawkins.
Oh my gosh, Tim Hawkins. There's another one. Tim Hawkins, he has this poster that he bought at your show, sir. By the way, if you hear this, please be also sure to like and subscribe. Okay. Anyway, In God We Trust. What's that on? Where do you see In God We Trust at?
My money.
Your money or everybody's money?
My money. Only my money.
This is where we start seeing In God We Trust, which, by the way, money, currency, prior to this, did not have In God We Trust on there.
Hold up, wait.
This becomes, hang on just a second. This becomes a way to propagandize American citizens. You're going to put In God We Trust on the dollars. You're going to have One Nation Under God that's added in the 1950s to the Pledge of Allegiance, to the national anthem. It's a product of propaganda from magazines and periodicals, a public-private partnership campaign for national identity and unity in linking hands with patriotism and morality, not genuine Christianity, by the way.
You know, you think that they would have In God We Trust on the Awana dollar, but
so Henry Lucy, I think I'm pronouncing that right. He becomes the guy. It could be loose. He becomes the guy who starts Time magazine, Life magazine, and Fortune magazine.
Those are like the first two are like the most popular magazines of all time.
Correct. And he's the one that does this. The problem is that he starts using these magazines to spread propaganda.
Ain't no way he's still alive.
Along with the Dulles brothers, so Alan Dulles and
Ezra Dulles.
I'm trying to think of the brother's name, but
that looks like Dulles.
It's Dulles because there's Dulles Air Force Base. One of them was involved in the government, and the other one was a brother that was working with Lucy.
And the other was involved in a drug bust.
No, what are you talking about?
Person of interest, bro.
They become the modern, this is very important, they become the modern day fathers of the political gospel. Pay attention to this, please. Lock it away.
Listening.
Not just you, but for those who are listening. This is where your political gospel gets a rise.
I'm listening.
Now, yes, I know that church and state have been linked together since the time of Constantine. I understand that fact. But as far as the United States goes, coming out of its founding and then kind of rediscovering itself in this political gospel, it's in the 1950s. Christianity plus Americanism, which is another point to pay attention to, especially in today's political environment, because they are using Christ's name in vain. Go check out the podcast, Notes from the Pulpit podcast on Is MAGA Taking the Lord's Name in Vain? Christianity and Americanism equals stability and a counter to communism. It becomes a civil religion. It also, guess what?
Yes.
When you do this in the 1950s and you join religion and patriotism or religion and nationalism, you can export that. And they tried to export it to China, and they tried to export it to Vietnam. This ultimately leads to the Vietnam War.
I think you can.
Hey, we can take our morality that's tied to nationalism, and if we can make the Vietnamese happy to be Vietnamese and import some of this morality in there, they'll look what we'll do. We'll change everything. Okay?
I finally have the excuse I need to not like Leave It to Beaver.
Let's finish this up right here. We'll take us down to second wave feminism, and that's going to have to be another episode.
I was going to say, you only have me until like 7 more minutes, and then I'm completely gone.
You're cooked now, bro.
What do you?
I know. I just would like. I mean, I
so
know some videos get a lot more viewers than others, and a lot is kind of even subjective
Probably because
term.
of me, guys.
No, that could be. But I just like for those of you who listen to these shows and make it through all the way to just realize what I'm dealing with. By the way, you know why I like this format, right? Like this with trying to get through historical facts and understand how these things affect everything, but then having you random offshoot. I think that's actually appealing to an audience. One, because we meaning me, I don't allow it to sidetrack me from the main point, but two, it brings in this character to the show that I think is very entertaining.
You know what's also entertaining?
What?
The sound of my ring fidget spinner.
No, that's not. That is definitely not. Okay, I just have a couple more bullet points here, and then we're going to be done, and we're going to take us down to second wave, which is where things really go sideways.
Okay, so you better be using an Uzi if we're doing bullets here.
The stable, nuclear, suburban family. That becomes the key emphasis in the 1950s. You ever seen the show Leave It to Beaver? I know you mentioned that a minute ago.
Literally every single person who's ever lived on a place called planet Earth has seen that show.
If you haven't seen it,
then you don't live on planet Earth. You're from Mars or Jupiter or heck, Pluto. Hold up.
Thank you for
Pluto. Okay.
I actually like the show Leave It to Beaver, but it is essentially a product of propaganda. What it's trying to do is to promote the suburban white picket fence nuclear family that has morality. There's not necessarily anything wrong with that, okay? The problem, though, as a whole, is it lacks the substance of Christ. Do you understand that point?
Yeah, well, I'm so happy about this, though, because now whenever there's, like, Me TV Sundays, then we're like, oh, yeah, let's watch Leave It to Beaver. Not.
The Happy Housewife of the 1950s, this is they referred to this as being in a gilded cage.
Is this a spinoff of one of those?
Do you see how many points we have here? Literally like a half page. I can get through this for you.
Okay,
if you want me to.
I'm just gonna.
No, don't check out. Don't check out. Capitalism is in part of what they were promoting. Capitalism is superior to communism. This is the political angle that can't be ignored. Consumerism means spend. Get out and spend your money, right? Go spend.
Oh, I thought you said spin.
Spend. Consumerism, along with patriotism, is considered the path forward for the meaning of life. So, what is the purpose of life? Go make money, spend money, and be a good patriot. And also have morality in the background.
What are you talking about?
They linked religion and political duties together. So there's a redomestication, that means back to the home, of women. And it's primarily caused by men returning from the war and going into the workplace. So all of these Rosie the Riveters that were in the workplace, the kids are in the daycare, the men come back from war, they go back into the workplace, and the women are shuffled back home. Now, can you imagine this? Just think of this for just a second. On the perspective of feminism we've been talking about. You have people that are fighting for them to go into the home, then the war comes out, and now they're saying, it's your duty to go build military-grade weapons. Rosie the Riveter, get out there, okay? The men come back, and now they're going, hey, women, it's your duty now to go back home.
I want to build military-grade weapons.
To me, it sounds like that feminism allows women to be a pawn. Just want to point that out there.
I'm a bishop.
The women that, there were things that started shifting in this time period called pink collar jobs. You know how we talked about white and blue collar jobs? Well, the pink collar jobs are clerical jobs, retail jobs, service industry jobs. There's now a possibility for a single income family because you're living in mass suburbia. Everybody has moved from the countryside to the city as a result of the Industrial Revolution, but now there's a shift to suburbia. And suburbia is kind of that concentric ring around the city before you get into the rural area. You got something funny to say? You have a smirk on your face.
You said,
here we go.
Retail job.
Yes.
The way you said it made me think of, if you took the L and replaced it with a D and took the...
I don't know. We're moving on. The nuclear family is seen as opposition to communism. Now, I may get this name wrong here, but Simone de...
Beauvoir.
Beauvoir. Thank you. I don't know why that was Beauvoir. I know it's Simone de Beauvoir. Okay. They published a book called The Second Sex, which I think is about women.
Appropriate.
This is a pushback due to the dissatisfaction and the publication of the feminine mystique leads to the second wave feminism.
Hold up. Why have we never had a bullet point mentioning the song Losing My Religion by Rem?
How would that have anything to do with what we're talking about?
America, bro.
There's another one. Man, you just stack these randos up.
I mean, at this point, you're encouraging me.
The compilation is going to be so epic when that thing gets pulled together.
I'm going to say right now.
Yeah.
One of my favorite fidgets. I didn't realize how much I spin this ring. But then also, think about this. This ball right here, I could spin it all day long.
Okay, if you've held in with us for this song, if you've hung in there, I hope they have. Yeah. We just walked through basically the time period from essentially the 1920s or so, coming out of that liberalism and fundamentalism movement. We walked through World War II, and we're kind of seeing these developments of women. We saw how the women were encouraged to be back in the home. World War II takes them into the workplace again. Then the men come back after World War II, and the women go back into the home. Okay? That's where we're at. You understand that? Yeah. There was propaganda that was used to get the women into the workplace. There was propaganda that was used to get women out of the workplace. You had the rise of the Leave It to Beaver type promotion of the re-domestication of women. All of this was propaganda. You had Henry Luce, or Luce, however you'd like to say it, with his magazines that were also having these pictures and promotions and advertisements in order to move the country in whatever direction that they wanted it to be moved towards. They started advertising goods in there. Hey, women, you need to get into the home. Get yourself a vacuum cleaner. Get yourself the latest, whatever, dishwasher, stove. I don't think there were dishwashers yet. There may have been.
Wait a minute. Can we since we're about to end this, can we promote Guinea Studios?
It hasn't had anything to promote yet.
What about TechSec? There's a lot to
No, not on this, because this is farther extended out than just 5 or 10 miles around our town.
All right. Well, I do want to mention, if you want to donate to Guinea Studios, my mailing address.
No.
Listen. Make sure you're on the Fortnite OG map and go to Paradise Palms, and there's a shack around the center. I'll be in that shack.
Oh my goodness.
Just give me it to it.
Let's finish this up. So ultimately what we've done is we brought ourselves all the way up to second wave feminism, which begins in the 1960s, and it runs essentially through the 1980s. There is a major, huge development in feminism right here, and that is the birth control pill. We'll pick up on that next time.
What?
So, if you want to close us out, hopefully they've hung in there.
Welcome.
No, don't
welcome.
I want you to finish it out the right way, okay?
Okay. Thank you. Did you seriously have your... What are you doing, bro?
I'm sorry. I thought we were hooked up to the keyboard.
Thank you for totally watching. You totally watched it. The Family Pulpit Podcast. Go check us out. VoiceTheTruthBlog.com is the OG blog by Dad. And then we've got FamilyPulpit.com is our website for this podcast. Cool stuff on YouTube. We have a lot more content there. Clips from the pulpit, notes from the pulpit, unscripted, my little mini series that we're gonna work on. If you're on everything else, we just have the mainline podcast. I guess we'll catch you on the next one.
Sounds good. We'll catch you on the next one.
Adios.